All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So tonight is going to be absolutely insane. I cannot wait. I mean, this game feels like the main event, right, of week one. Bills at Jets, MetLife Stadium. You know the fans are going to come in and pack the house. I cannot wait for this game. I seriously can, like, this day cannot go by fast enough. Just absolutely, like, it's here. The season is here. Meaningful games are here. Let's get it done. Let's get it done. But in this one, I wanted to, right, in the meantime, right, to kind of get through this Monday, in the meantime, I wanted to take a look back at yesterday's games. There were some matchups that were really, really shocking, in my opinion. Some stuff that I was not expecting. And then there was some pretty run-of-the-mill stuff, too. So I felt like, let's break down really the current state of affairs of the AFC East, and I guess we can start there with the Miami Dolphins. I felt like this game was probably the most talked about. Afterwards, the Dolphins beat the Chargers 36-34. Both offenses were just flying up and down the field. I mean, the biggest storyline from the game was Tua, 466 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick, 28 of 45. Tyreek, on the other hand, 11 catches, 215 receiving yards with 2 touchdowns. From the Chargers' perspective, Austin Eckler did his thing with, I think he had I think it was once 117 rushing yards with a touchdown. I mean, it was a crazy game, but in the end, the Dolphins defense made that stop. Personally, I thought the Chargers, I thought LA was going to go right down the field, kick a field goal as time was expiring. In other words, the Chargers had an opportunity to go down and make that happen. Miami was able to score on that last drive, which featured, by the way, 2 beautiful passes from Tua. Long story short, they get in the end zone and they miss the extra point. I was thinking, okay, the Chargers, an offense that was having success all day with multiple timeouts in LA, they surely can get down the field in field goal range. All you need is 3 to win, not tie. Couldn't do it. The Dolphins defense made a stop. That it really was the defensive line just getting after Herbert, just kind of collapsing the offensive line, and they got it done. They are walking away, flying back to Miami with the win. The bright side here is that the LA Chargers, another AFC competitor, right, for the New York Jets, because let's be honest, the entire playoff picture, I mean, it sounds crazy to say this, right? We're literally in week one, but these games matter. These AFC matchups, these head-to-head matchups with AFC opponents, these games will come back into play at the end of the season, right? December, January, we're going to look back at these conference wins and losses. So the bright side here is that the Chargers are really favored to get one of these wild card spots. So at least the Dolphins were able to kind of, knock a team down a peg. But overall, I felt like, obviously, right, based off the numbers alone, the Dolphins offense was, they were moving up and down the field pretty effectively. I felt like the quick game was there. Tua looked really accurate. And they were also having a lot of effectiveness from play action as well. But shifting gears and looking at the New England Patriots Philadelphia Eagles game, this was, in my opinion, kind of the antithesis of the Dolphins-Chargers game. I felt like really the Patriots defense kept New England in the game. There were games yesterday that it seriously just felt like it was over after the first quarter. The Niners and the Steelers game early on. The night game, Dallas Giants, I mean, that was just complete blowout, 40-0. It felt over, like, again, after the first quarter. This game, the Eagles-Pats game, Philly jumped out to a hot start, and it kind of felt like it had the potential to pull away or, to result in a blowout. But because of New England's defense, they were able to hang in, and then the offense, as the game went on, were able to chip away, and they were getting in the end zone. Philly jumped out to that 16-0 lead just in the first quarter alone, and then in the second quarter, it was all Patriots, right? 14 points. Philly had 0 going into halftime, 16-14. The game felt like it could go either way. I felt like a lot of people still felt like Philly could pull through. And then really the third quarter, it was just defensive stand after defensive stand. Both defenses were out there looking good. Philly just comes away with 3 in the third quarter. Fourth quarter, it gets a little interesting, because here's where I felt like just in critical situations, the Patriots just couldn't execute. And I feel ultimately that was the reason why New England lost the game. And of course, we have to look at Philly. They're a great team, but it was the failures in the critical situations for New England, right? 5 of 15 on third down, 1 of 4 on fourth down. I believe New England was also flagged 7 times. So just situations like that, I felt like that was the reason of the Patriots' downfall in the end. Too many mistakes, right? Mac Jones had a pick, which was like a weird deflected pass. Zeke Elliott had a strange fumble. So in the end, the Eagles won the game 25-20. And if we take a look at who the Pats are playing over the next 3 weeks, it's Sunday Night Football at home against the Miami Dolphins next week, at Jets in week 3, at Cowboys in week 4 on the 1st of October. It's a pretty tough stretch, right? When we break the NFL schedule up in quarters, it's a pretty difficult first quarter for sure. So it's not just the Jets here. I know it's such a big talking point. The Jets have to play all these, great coaches and great defenses early on, which is true, but it's not like the rest of the AFC East have a cakewalk schedule. In fact, let's take a look at who the Dolphins are playing. Again, at New England Sunday Night Football next week, home against the Broncos, 1 o'clock, and then at Buffalo Bills October 1st. For the first time in a long time, this division is completely wide open. I don't feel like there's a team in the division that can just easily run away with it. Now, granted, Buffalo has a couple of easier games in the first half, or first, couple quarters here of the season, but on the flip side, they still have to play these same teams, and they're actually sandwiched in the back half of the year. So with the Jets, Pats, and Dolphins having to play the bulk of their tougher opponents in the first section of the season, the Bills have to play those opponents in the midway to later parts of the year. And to quickly go over the rest of the AFC games, let's start with the Saints over the Titans. That was a weird, back and forth game. A lot of sloppy play. I think Tannehill, I believe, had 3 INTs. The Saints won by 1 point, 16-15. The Browns beat down the Bengals 24-3. That Bengals offense just looked rusty. It looked out of character, out of sync, for sure. Right. And of course, we can point to the Joe Burrow injury and just him not playing in the preseason. Obviously it's a major part. And then you factor in playing in Cleveland. You factor in going up against a new defensive coordinator, Jim Schwartz, who went out there and just did his thing. And then the offense, I felt like for the Browns, obviously did enough to score enough points to win the game. Overall, though, much like the AFC East, the AFC North is going to be such a fun division to watch. Staying in the division, Baltimore beat the Houston Texans. I felt like that was pretty expected. And then one of the more shocking games, in my opinion, San Francisco went up to Pittsburgh and won 30-7. And, San Francisco is a great team. They have offensive weapons. They have a great coaching staff. They have the defense, all these great things. But I thought Purdy looked really, really good. I was more shocked with Pittsburgh's performance, specifically on offense, right? It felt like that first half, it was just it was just tough to sit through. It was tough to watch. Just incompletions after incompletions after incompletions, punt after punt after punt. Kenny Pickett had a INT in that I believe in the first quarter. It was just rocky. I was really expecting to see a little bit more from Pittsburgh at their home opener to kick it off. Of course, we have to give the Niners credit. They went in there and they handled business. But I was blown away at how just clunky the Steelers offense looked. I do feel like they will get better in time. But to start out, I just wasn't really expecting that, to be honest. Moving on, the Jacksonville Jaguars beat the Indianapolis Colts, another game that I felt like had a similar outcome to what was expected. And then the Raiders had an awesome away win in Denver, 17-16. And I felt like every time Jimmy stepped back and threw the football, it was just like a magnet into the receiver's hands. Let me actually look up Jimmy Garoppolo's stats for a second. Okay, yeah, so Jimmy G was 20 of 26, 200 passing yards with 2 touchdowns and a pick. Jacoby Myers, 9 catches, 81 yards. Devontae Adams, 6 catches, 66 yards. And, I do feel like, although this was back and forth, I do feel like the Raiders, when we just look at their roster and when we look at specifically how last season went for them, there were so many games that were just botched. Like just a screw up, a crazy, once in a season type of mess up. But it happened over and over again last year. Multiple blown leads for the Raiders, and it's just like, man, if the Raiders could just get out of their own way, if they could just stop stumbling over themselves, this team record-wise would look pretty good a year ago. Now you're factoring in a quarterback change, somebody who knows McDaniel's system. He knows McDaniel's as a person. Everybody's second year in the McDaniel's and Pat Graham systems, respectively. You could add Tyree Wilson to the mix. You can add Jacoby Myers to the mix. Obviously led the team in receptions yesterday. So I do feel like Vegas has the potential to look a lot better compared to, what the what the overall expectation was amongst like the big media and fans and whatnot. Because again, going back to last season, I know when we look at the win-loss, it's just like, yeah, not too pretty, right? Not too productive. But if you went back and watched those Raiders games, and Raiders fans, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, they were close. They were close. It was just a boneheaded decision here, an interception there, a fumble here, allowing the offense to convert on a 4th and long. Just situations like that. So yeah, that's gonna be it for the AFC here. Lot of stuff happening. I cannot wait for tonight. So excited. Of course, the recap will be dropping later after the game. So yeah, I'm totally pumped. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, go Jets.